So that was the 20th. And then 2 days ago, his aunt says that he has died. So his kidneys, his lungs are shutting down, and he has a stroke. And his mom tells NPR he has a list of viruses. And
so again, just to recap, what Ivory Hecker is talking about here is the shocking, I think it's fair to call it shocking passing, in a way shocking, passing of another Boeing whistleblower 2 months. And if you watch the previous video I did on this one's going to go further into it with Ivory Hecker and going back to the other one, John Barnett, who passed away as well.
She's wondering if someone did something because doctors have never seen anything like this. Just 2 months after blowing the whistle to NPR about serious manufacturing concerns with Boeing, and 1 month after John Barnett, the whistleblower, is in the middle of testifying to he's doing a deposition testimony in the lead up to the actual lawsuit hearings. And
so she's talking about John Barnett now. Let's recap John Barnett. He's the one that died less than 2 months ago. And what happened with him was he was a former quality control manager at Boeing. And that's kind of relatable because Joshua Dean was in auditing and quality control at Spirit, a contractor, a part supplier for Boeing. But Barnett was at Boeing, a quality control manager. So we're seeing problems here potentially with 2 whistleblowers coming out. He raised, John Barnett, the other one, raised significant safety concerns regarding the production and standards at Boeing, specifically at the North Charleston plant where the 787 Dreamliner is manufactured. Unfortunately, he was found unlived in March, ruled as a self-inflicted wound. So what's going on here? This is very convenient. It's a very convenient kind of circumstance to have for Boeing, not for anybody else, but for Boeing, it was very convenient. The specific allegations by Barnett, before we go back to Ivory, deliberate installation of substandard parts. That's very specific. Deliberately installing substandard parts, a failure rate of 25% in emergency oxygen systems, which meant 1 in 4 masks might not work in case you need it at high altitude. Mismanagement of component tracking within the factory, allowing defective parts to be misplaced or even used from scrap bins.
So he's deposed and talking all the details of what Boeing was doing to suppress serious concerns. Why would they do that? And he turns up dead. And police investigating his death, where he's apparently shot himself in his truck in South Carolina, police say this does look a little strange. We're definitely going to dig further.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know? We're now in May. John Barnett was killed in March. And where's the update? I'm not getting details from police. And you know how easy it is to suppress a police investigation. I wonder if we're going to get those details. Also, the thorough autopsy of John Barnett. Where's that? We did get more details on what he was saying in that deposition. I can bring that to you. But let's finish out what the heck is going on with this second dead whistleblower now. NPR reports Green went to check on her son at his home, telling him to call her if he felt worse. She says, quote, he did call me a couple hours later, told me that he was in the emergency room. He was scared. They found something in his lungs. He tested positive for these viruses. He had pneumonia. His lungs were completely filled up, and he just went downhill, she says. Dean was initially treated at St. Jude Hospital in Wichita, but as he got worse, went to Oklahoma City. It was a stunning turn of events for the family. They said he was a gym rat, ran nearly every day, very careful with his diet, and this was his first time in the hospital, she said. But within days, Dean's kidneys gave out, and he was relying on life support to do the work for his heart and lungs. The night before Dean died, his mom said that the medical staff in Oklahoma did a bronchoscopy on his lungs. That means they put a little camera in there to see what's going on. She says the doctor said that he'd never seen anything like it before in his life. His lungs were just totally gummed up and like a mesh over them. Green says that she has asked for an autopsy to determine exactly what killed her son. Results will likely take months, she said. She told NPR, quote, "We're not sure what he died of. We know that he had a bunch of viruses, but, we don't know if somebody did something to him or if did he just die from getting really sick." Now, let me show you the expose that he was revealing to.
So it's not just me asking questions, it's the family asking questions. And this is, in our country, we are not asking enough questions of the people who have power, people in charge. I know this has nothing to do with the pro-Palestinian stuff, but the pro-Palestinian protests, to me, they started out peaceful. It was college kids on the campus, whether they had tents or not, they were dancing, singing. I didn't see any violence. Then all of a sudden, things got kind of crazy at UCLA and a couple other places where they got 2x4s and firing off firecrackers, and then now the Tifa group's involved. Why are we not asking, just like with J6, how many of them are feds? These are questions that not only need, we're not going to get answers if we don't ask them. These are questions that need to be asked and then answered.
And NPR, he went to NPR and told the world that Boeing was having serious issues. Here it is. NPR, back on February 5th, they do an exclusive with him. Why problems at a key Boeing supplier may help explain the company's 737 MAX 9 mess. At the factory in Wichita, Kansas, where Spirit Aerosystems builds the fuselages for the Boeing 737 MAX, management would sometimes throw a pizza party to celebrate a drop in the number of problems reported on the line. But Joshua Dean, that's the guy who's now dead, says many of the workers knew something was off. Dean is quoted saying, quote, "We're having a pizza party because we're lowering the defects, but we're not lowering the defects. We just ain't reporting them." You know what I mean? Oh, you can't say that, Josh. Now, federal investigators are looking more closely at Spirit Aerosystems to understand what went wrong with the door panel that blew off of the Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9 in midair last month, the latest chapter in the long and troubling relationship between the two companies. Dean says his father and grandfather had worked at the same Wichita factory, and he took his job as an auditor seriously. So Dean got frustrated when what he described as a culture that pressured employees not to report defects in order to get planes out of the factory faster. Dean, who's now dead, said, quote, "Now, I'm not saying they don't want you to go out there and inspect a job. They do. But if you make too much trouble, you will get the Josh treatment. You will get what happened to me." Dean was fired last April in retaliation, he says, for flagging improperly drilled holes in fuselages. Dean said, quote, "I think they were sending out a message to anybody else, quote, if you're too loud, we will silence you." Dean has given his statement as part of a shareholders' lawsuit against Spirit Aerosystems that alleges an excessive number of defects at the Kansas factory. So Spirit Aerosystems is a contractor for Boeing, building parts for the Boeing 737 MAX.
Let me take a break here and then go to this. I just want to do kind of like a cross promotion in a way. There's this great account on X, which is the Hotspot, and it's with Nick. I don't know who really runs it, but I know the people that I know are Nick from Revolutionary Blackout Network and Nico, the homie Nico House. And on their account, they posted this. It's a great video. I'm going to show it here. I'm gonna kind of end with this video just to give another angle from it and give a shout out to Hotspot. It's at hotspot. So they just repeated the hotspot twice, but they just do very good clips like this. Here's a clip here about Josh Dean.
But Dean says many of the workers knew something was off.
We're having a pizza party because we're lowering defects, but we're not lowering defects. We just ain't reporting them. You know what I mean?
Dean was a quality auditor at Spirit's factory. His father and grandfather had worked there too, and he took his job seriously. So he got frustrated with what he describes as a culture that pressured employees not to report defects in order to get planes out of the factory faster.
I think they were sending out a message to anybody else. If you are too loud, we will silence you. If you make too much trouble, you will get the Josh treatment. You will get what happened to me.
Dean was fired last April, he says, in retaliation for flagging improperly drilled holes in fuselages. He's given statements as part of a shareholder lawsuit against Spirit. Spirit denies his allegations and is fighting the case in court. But
the safety of passengers, the safety of our country has to come before these big companies that work with the government. Boeing, they have defense contracts. They work directly with the government. And there's a bias there. There's a conflict of interest there. So do they get protected? I don't know. But I think we're at the point in our country where with the pandemic, if the pandemic didn't teach us anything else, that's what woke me up. And go to YouTube and find any type of creator that's independent. I mean, you'll find over half of them were awakened during the pandemic, when that was the first time many of us, I'll speak for myself, and some of you might be laughing because you knew it way before, but everybody has their moment. That was the first time I realized that the people that are in charge of our government, the politicians, they don't care if their own citizens are unlived as long as they get more power.
Middle MAGA.